Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Unfuck Yourself podcast. It's me, Allie, obviously. Okay, I'm so excited about today's episode because we are diving in on all things the source perspective of changing and altering the body and what body dysmorphia actually is. And I bet you have never heard body dysmorphia talked about like this before. Okay, before we get into that, I am so excited to share with you that because you guys have been so up my butt about when is the Glow Formula program going to be open, obviously we've been doing a self-image theme for the past, I'd say, month and a half now. And I am really doing my best to get you set up on the foundations of all of the stuff that is inside of Glow Formula, because Glow Formula is very advanced. So when you're ready to go advanced is really when you get inside there. So I decided, along with the foundations of everything we've been talking about on the podcast and on my Instagram stories and in the Instagram Reels, I am going to be holding a 2-hour Glow Foundation workshop. That is the prereq to Glow Formula, which is like a 12 plus week program, and it's getting completely revamped. So if you got in last year, congratulations, you got it for an incredible price. And I'm remaking every single video and I'm completely revamping it. And it's going to be basically a completely way more in-depth program. Anyway, because I'm taking the program so much more advanced, I do have to have a prerequisite for it, which is going to be the 2-hour Glow Foundation workshop. Whether you just want to take that or you want to take that and go inside of Glow Formula, either way, you need it for Glow Formula, but you're also going to get incredible in-depth information in that too, whether you want to take Glow Formula or not. So we're going to put the waitlist for that in the show notes. Okay, now let's get into what I want to get into today. So before we really dive in, this episode is built on a lot of scientific, spiritual, energetic laws of the universe, and this episode may push some emotional triggers or buttons. So if you keep watching or keep listening to this episode without the understanding of reflections, you might get triggered with the information that is inside of here. Because everywhere you go, and everything that's floating around in the world right now is kind of designed to shut down your potentials and shut down your abilities and shut down your source-like ability way of seeing yourself and creation and the whole shebang. So it's important to know the scientific spiritual law called the law of reflections, because with the way that we unfortunately are programmed in society, that program could definitely run the risk of you getting triggered from this episode. So real quick, the reflections are essentially however we feel somewhere in our own life is kind of the script we are going to write in our creator field. And then our creator field will be handing out that script essentially to all matter around us. So that translates to all people, all places, all situations and circumstances. We'll then act out the script that we are thinking, believing to be true, telling ourselves and taking action on. So however we're being to ourselves, essentially in short, is that however other people are going to be toward us. It's going to determine the situations, circumstances, events we find ourselves involved in. So if at any point you feel yourself getting triggered during this, you are somewhere, somehow out of the source perception. So you're seeing yourself in a completely different way than source is. And something that is being said or going on in here is triggering that within you. So you don't miss out. Nothing about this episode is meant to be limiting. And if anything ever sounds limiting, that means I have taught it wrong. So and nothing in here is meant to be limiting at all. So if at any point you feel like an emotional imbalance or like your buttons are being pushed, there is something there for you. Okay. I want you to feel like however you feel like something's being, you are being somewhere towards yourself in some area of life. Okay, and if you don't have the understanding of reflections, go to maybe another episode where I dive into reflections a little more and then come back to this episode. But this episode is not a reflection episode, but it can get the ego, just like we've talked about in the past 2 episodes. These topics can get the ego wanting to come out and fight a little bit. And I wouldn't want you to miss out on the information that can be incredibly life-changing for you because the ego is, being annoying. So if at any point you start to get a little bit emotionally flustered, because I know this topic used to definitely make me emotional, and you'll see why, because I'll explain why later. We're going to dive into the topic today of feeling the need to change who you are. Okay. Now, first, before we dive deeper into that, I want to talk about the energetic, emotional root cause of body dysmorphia. And it's probably not like anything you've ever heard before. Most people, when they talk about body dysmorphia, they go into loving your body, and they go into really just targeting how you feel about your body. But the problem with that is that that's probably not even the root cause of your body dysmorphia. How you see your body is probably not the root cause of your body dysmorphia. Now, hear me out. What if I told you that body dysmorphia and face dysmorphia that you may be experiencing has actually nothing to do with how your body and face actually look? And before I go into what I'm about to say, there's a whole neuroscience lesson about how our eyes actually process things and process light. Now, we'll dive deep into that inside of the Glow Formula program, but I'll spare you the neuroscience lesson just to get to the point on the podcast here, because we only have so much time on the podcast. But essentially, how reflections work, how we feel in one area of life will pop up in other ways in other areas. So if your body or your face or how you're looked or how you perceived is one of your highest values, our body will give us those reflections, and we'll start seeing our body like we're seeing other things. So if you feel like in any area out of the 8 areas of your life, even just one area, a lack of perfection, and your body is something that you pay attention to, then you are going to start literally seeing your body different than what it actually looks like. You're going to see it out of perfection, and you're going to start seeing your body more and more not perfect. The more not perfect you see a different area of your life, the more not perfect you're going to start to see your body. The rays of light and matter start to manipulate that you see, the rays of light that you're seeing and matter start to manipulate and change based on your perception of a totally different area of life. For example, if you feel like finances aren't perfect, or if you're not liking what you're seeing in the financial area of life, now what's going to happen is you are going to start to have a full different perception of your body that's not even the truth, especially if your body's something you pay attention to, okay? And the rays of light that your eyes are processing, and again, a deeper neuroscience lesson that we go into in Glow Formula on, like what rays of light are and how we process them. But the rays of light your eyes are processing is completely different of what's actually there and the truth because of how you're experiencing life in other areas. If you feel like things aren't perfect in another area of life, you're going to feel like your body, your face isn't perfect and like you need to change it. But the thing is your body isn't actually changing. Your eyes are just manipulating how you're seeing the rays of light that make up the picture of your body to a whole different reality that's not even true based on how you're feeling in a totally different area of life. And then what starts to create and then that's what starts to create into how you're seeing your body. And that's what people would deem then as body dysmorphia. What happens is people try to target the body to fix the problem, but it never fixes the problem because you aren't targeting the root cause of the problem. This could be body or face dysmorphia or any kind of dysmorphia on how you physically look. How to actually shift this? You've got to go to the root cause of the problem, which is probably not your body. Now, this is going to be dependent. Like if you have actually gained weight, like you're actually not fitting in clothes and that kind of thing, that might be different a different story. Like the weight gain might be that you didn't want, let's say you didn't want it. It was like, it's unnecessary weight gain, right? That could be a reflection of a totally different thing. But if you're still fitting the same clothes, or if the fits may be changing, but like you're not actually like, because you know how when you do work out and when your body does change, and like any fitness coach can tell you this, you know, you start to build muscle in different areas, but you almost start to look leaner or like look more bulky or whatever you're trying to go for. But like the extra fat's leaving, you know what I mean? So like even if your jeans are tighter, but like you're building muscle and like your butt's looking good or whatever, like this is a different situation. Like this is a situation where you are, from someone else's perception, don't look any different at all. But you're seeing yourself and like as if you've just gained 20 pounds overnight. Okay. Or like you see your face is incredibly distorted and you think it's uneven and you think all these things are crooked and sideways. And then when someone else looks at you, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see that at all. Like you're delusional, right? That's what this is about. Like any kind of delusion that you have about the body, that's what this body dysmorphia thing of the reflection that I'm talking about right now. Okay. So how to actually shift this, you've got to get to the root cause of the problem. Okay, so one time, most of my life, I have perceived myself to be literally, I'm not joking, 20 to 30 pounds heavier than I actually ever was. And like my eyes, you guys, I'm not even joking, you would literally convince myself of it. But I was so out of perfection in it because I wasn't seeing the perfection in other areas of life. Okay. I have always been really critical of myself in two main areas of career and finances. And even from when I was 18 years old and moved to New York City for dance and moved to LA for dance and doing the pro dance thing, like I was always so incredibly hard on myself, and I could always be doing better in my eyes, and my career could have always been better, and blah, 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 blah. And then I was so hard on myself about the money I was making and, you know, the full shebang. So because of that, I created insane body dysmorphia on myself since I have been probably 10 years old. I have had an insane body, probably even before that, honestly. I remember even being younger than that and actually feeling too skinny, like actually feeling the opposite. So body dysmorphia is feeling too skinny, too fat, too this, too that. It's anything outside of just seeing yourself as perfect, okay? So there was a point where I even felt like I was too skinny when I was younger. I remember like a specific memory in like fourth grade, I think, and or third grade, I think, thinking I was like too thin, and then wearing like 5 different tank tops underneath my like Abercrombie shirt to make myself look wider, and like shorts underneath my jeans. It was wild. But then I had this whole twist and turn of events in fourth grade, where there was another girl in my class who was really, really tall, really, really long, really skinny, just like naturally built that way. And then I decided that I was fat because, I don't know, I wasn't tall and skinny like her or something, even though I was like super, super tiny little thing. So this goes to show like my body didn't change really from third to fourth grade, other than maybe growing a few inches in height. And in third grade, I thought I was way too skinny. And then in fourth grade, I thought I was way too fat, but like I didn't actually look any different other than maybe I grew 1 or 2 inches. That just goes to show that like the body dysmorphia is such a delusion. Okay. And then it just feels it's anywhere else where you don't feel perfect in life. And I remember even at that time, I felt like I wasn't like good enough, or I need to be a certain way, or like other things in other areas of my life didn't feel perfect. So of course then that then reflects into literally how I'm seeing the rays of light when I look at myself, and how I'm manipulating how my body actually looks in my own brain. Now, you ask anyone else, they would go tell me, you know, to go eat more, because I come from an Italian family. They always thought I was too skinny, whatever. So they'd always tell me you need to go eat more. And I was over here thinking I was like literally probably 20 to 30 pounds heavier than I was. Well, now this followed me then throughout my life. So I would always be incredibly hard on myself in career and in finances, and from being a pro dancer to then even starting this brand and business when I first started it. And so I was always out of perfection. I was never seeing the perfection in any other area of life and how it was absolutely perfect, because through the lens of source, everything is perfect. Because of the law of balance, nothing's fully good or bad. Everything has literally both. And, if we are out of perfection, we are out of alignment with our higher self and with source. So everything is perfect, and we do have an ability to see how every single thing going on, whether we're perceiving it as good or bad, how it is absolutely perfect. So when we're not seeing perfection in these other areas of life, and our body and our face is something that is of value to us, it will start to then reflect in our body. Our body and face, are they actually changing? Probably not. And if they are, it's probably not a lot. But if they are changing even a little bit, it's still just a reflection of you not seeing the perfection in other things. So you're going to start to not see the perfection in yourself. If you're disgusted by the way you look, you're disgusted with a completely different area of life. And it will alter how you're seeing yourself. And if you hold on to that emotion long enough, it will actually start to alter like your physical body, because our creator field is our light body, and our light body is responsible, the subatomic particles, the atoms, the protons, the neutrons are responsible for then making up our physical body. So if for a long time we have a script going in our light body, in our creator field of this is disgusting, this isn't perfect, we are then going to start to manifest that into our physical body, and it will start to manipulate our physical body, and our physical body could start to actually change. But again, that is after a very, very long time of doing this stuff. It's kind of like, after I've done all this self-image healing, I actually physically look insanely different than if you look at a photo of me from even just a few years ago, and especially a photo of me from when I was like 21, and I'm 28 now. So it's wild how seeing the perfection in yourself actually also not only just makes you fucking emotionally, mentally feel better, but you also start to physically start to look at your highest alignment of perfection, of like the best you can look. You know what I mean? Like you start to really access that higher self way of your physical body being able to be, which is really cool. So first topic on this being body dysmorphia, I want you to actually shift this. You've got to get to the root cause of the problem. So you've got to go find the main area of life right now where you are so out of the perception of perfection. And again, we dive way deeper into this in Glow Formula, and we'll even get into this in the Glow Foundation to our workshop. But you've got to find the root cause of the problem. And then what you do is you shift that to the perfection in that. You will be mind blown how much you start to shift your body and face perception of yourself, okay? This is something that has been the bane of my existence, you guys, for not just this lifetime, but many, 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 many other lifetimes. And in this lifetime, I feel as though I have finally cracked the code on this, especially this past year, okay? Because what would happen was whenever I would start to get like in my head or out of a perception of love with finances or with my career, thinking that something's not perfect in some other area of my life, all of a sudden I had a problem with my body and my face. When like maybe for 2 to 3 weeks before I was like chilling, good, not thinking about it. And all of a sudden it just fucking came back, my problem with my body and my face. And I'd be like, what the fuck, man? What's going on? Until I finally realized this pattern and finally realized the source truth of where body dysmorphia actually comes from. So start there with that. Now, on the second topic of today, I want to go into the source, perception, and perspective of changing the body. So like plastic surgery, lip filler, anything like that. Now, anything I'm about to say, I am not telling you to do something or to not do something. I am just giving you the source perspective and why not. Like you have nothing to lose by understanding the source perspective, right? So I am not here to tell you what to do, what not to do. I am just the mailman of the source perspective of this. And trust me, I wanted to fight this perspective for so long, because if I didn't fall into this work, I guarantee you I would definitely have my lips filled. I probably would be doing all kinds of body alterations. I would have gotten a nose job. I would have, who knows what else I would have done, right? I would have been pumping botox in my face. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you what else I'd be doing. Maybe I would have taken Ozempic. Who knows? Who knows the road I would have gone down, because it was bad. Like my self-image, not just internally, we've already talked about, but physically was so distorted. I can't even tell you. So anyway, who knows what I would have done? So because everything's perfect, the perfection that came out of that was me instead of going that way, going the source way. If you don't know, I've given myself an energetic boob job by just shifting things around energetically and emotionally. That then allows my physical body to respond. I've given myself energetic botox, which is essentially just self-image healing, because any kind of wrinkle anywhere on your face, it has to do with worry in some kind of way about how people are perceiving you. We dive into that more in the Glow Foundation workshop, like what each wrinkle means specifically where. But so I have done that, but essentially that is literally just a byproduct of healing your self-image and feeling better internally anyway. But I too would have been, if I was so convinced that changing the body from an imbalanced place was beneficial. I have been that before. Like, I was so convinced that, if I just get a nose job, then I'll feel more feminine. Okay. If you've never seen me and you're just listening to this podcast, I'm Italian. So I have a Italian looking nose, and I used to fucking hate it so much. And then I hated it so much. So then it got broken, and then it got a little more sideways, and it was like a full situation. So I was so convinced that if I get a nose job, I am going to be and feel more feminine. And you couldn't convince me otherwise that it was going to make my life better. But what you'll find that we dive into here in this episode is that it actually makes your life worse. If you try and change a problem from the same frequency of the problem, you're going to get more problems. So if I try and feel better about myself from the outside in, it's not going to work, because this universe is built on laws of you can't feel better from the outside in. The only way you can actually shift and feel better is from the inside out. So I always say, don't change something until you love it. Once you love it and you get to the point where you're like, I'm good, I don't want to change it, then you can change it, which then you probably usually don't want to change it. But I'll explain all of this as we go into this episode. Okay. So plastic surgery is a massive thing right now, obviously. And back, in the, 60s, 50s, whatever, it wasn't that common. We have been so desensitized to the idea that if you don't like it, just change it. And 98% of the time, the choices we are making to change our bodies are done from a completely wrong perspective and wrong understanding of not knowing the bigger picture at all. So it sets us actually back, on a higher self level. Changing the body outside of any place other than love actually sets us back in so many areas of life. It can actually affect your career, your money coming in, all these other things. It's what your health. It's wild. It's almost impossible these days without your intuition to live your life by your higher self, because of just everything that's fucking getting pumped into you. I mean, you go on social media, and this is another topic for another day of dark forces and the intent behind it. And we dive into that in the Fuck Dark Force course. But there is a whole thing right now of everyone's getting lip filler, everyone's getting this, and all of a sudden you think you need it. But if you didn't see everyone else getting it, you probably wouldn't think you needed it, right? And if you watch the trends, if you watch as the trends go in the different eras of life, the 80s and 90s, every 10, 20 years or so, there's a new trend. And then all of a sudden, because it's a trend now, you feel like you need it. That's called group mind virus. That's probably not actually your intuition telling you need that. And then you think you need it because you think it's going to make you feel better. But whenever you make a change from the outside to try and make you feel better, you end up feeling worse, and it ends up domino affecting and making every other area of your life worse as well. So we might as well change things if we're going to change them, from a balanced place. Again, this isn't about changing things or not changing them. This is about, if you are going to change something, doing it from a balanced place. Okay. And we're going to get into how to do that here anyway. So what happens is, about usually 5 to 10 years down the road, is the person realizes that the thing they changed actually made things so much worse. And I want to start here with the higher self. So the higher selves are so much bigger than this life, than us. And before they enter the physical body, they see patterns, they make plans, they're in direct communication with Source in creating us. And they are constantly working with Source to figure out, based on where I need to get in this life, what would be the best thing to master and work on right now, essentially, so each lifetime is not a coincidence. And they pick and arrange every single piece of matter and the proportions of it that are needed throughout this life. So they pick the perfect parents to essentially launch you into overcoming a reoccurring soul lesson. They pick your eyes, they pick your ears, they pick every single thing about you, down to what your pinky toenail looks like, down to what your face looks like, right? Everything from where you live, it's all picked out and calculated, and to launch you into new soul discoveries and lessons. Our higher selves are essentially source and training, and they are creators and create every aspect of our life. So the same thing holds true with the bodies that our higher self picks for us. So our height, our size, our skin tone, our eye colors, our freckle on your toenail or whatever, wherever you have a freckle, was all so on purpose, for a purpose, and every detail has a significance. And the same goes for features or body parts that are hard for us to accept. They're all chosen with extreme purpose. Your higher self has a plan for it all, okay? You may have like a birthmark that creates a level of being self-conscious in your life. And that level of being self-conscious gets you to a place of accepting, seeing yourself as beautiful and special. And the higher self may have picked that to get you to a place of going, oh my God, I'm actually so beautiful and unique. Or like if you're struggling with your height or your ability to put on or lose weight or the sex of your body or anything like that, there are no mistakes when it comes to how your higher self built you, and they're all to get a lesson. And once you get that lesson and you understand, you 100% see the perfection in how your higher self has created the makeup of you, then and only then can you choose to change something and not get any of the reflective repercussions that would come from changing from a place of imbalance. Okay. So we're going to discuss like the soul path and overcoming of things and the real knowing that can come with this, like inside of the glow formula. But for now, it's a source fact that your higher self did not get stuck with any part of your human body, the body you are in right now. There's not a single fucking piece of it that was chosen by accident. It was going to help you shape your expanding consciousness and the ability to love yourself from the inside out so much more. This is a big soul desired lesson for every single soul who has come to earth ever. The soul desperately desires, maybe desperately is not the right word. The soul divinely desires to fully love its human form and every single part of it and exactly how you are. Okay? It is a big part in why souls come back here. It's a big part in soul growth. When you can achieve that knowing in that lesson, you then essentially raise higher in consciousness and get closer and closer to source. Now, we talk about like the realms and consciousness and what realm source is in and all of that in the Fuck Dark Forces course and that whole situation. And I even do have like 2 episodes, I think, on Dark Forces. I might share that in there. But to stay on this topic, there's like different realms and levels you access as you grow in points of consciousness, essentially. And the whole goal is to get back to source and bring all this information with us that we've learned back to source. Even though source knows everything about everything, source is humble as fuck and then just wants to also know more. So we gather information from source for source, and we're all extensions of source. We're just source kind of experiencing itself in a way. We gather this information, we then bring it back to source. And that's kind of like the higher and conscious we go, the more that we then become just more like source. And we get to create in the ways that source creates. So what's cool about this is the higher in consciousness you go with fully loving your body and just not wanting to change anything, then you can start to create like source creates. And that's where you can create the energetic boob job, or that's where you can create, all these other things. My good friend, Andrea Crowder, shout out to Andrea. When I told her about my energetic boob job, she goes, oh my God, Allie, you need to just sell that as its own thing. Like you could make so much money off of just selling that. And I said, Yes, for sure. But I can't do that because I can't just sell that to anyone on its own as its own product, because it will not work unless you fully 100% love the way you look right now and don't want to change. And then when you don't want to change anymore, then you can do it. And I know it sounds like, well, why would I do it then if I don't want to change anymore? I'll go into why later. But when you 100% love yourself as you are, and you don't want to change anymore, that's when you can do it. And so I said, Andrea, like, great fucking idea. Like, trust me, I would love to. However, I can't do that because I would then be selling a product that probably won't work for most people, because they're going to be doing this from a place of they hate an aspect about how they look. And so they're wanting this to fix them. And they think doing this will then make them feel different and make them feel better. And it's not going to work. Or if it does work, it'll work and they'll feel worse. And then it will domino effect and like wreak havoc on their whole life. And I'm like, I can't be responsible for that. So that is why that energetic boob job, you do not even get access to until after we finish the Glow Formula 12-week plus program, because in that program, you learn how to 100% see the perfection in yourself, everything around you, drastically raise your self-image, and then you can get your hands on the energetic boob job or whatever else you desire to manipulate in the body, right? So anyway, that would be another episode on like how you energetically, scientifically manipulate the body, but that's not this one. Okay. So Source had a hand in choosing your body as well. Obviously, your higher self Source. We're in cahoots, and it's all a divine plan. And right now, if you are wanting to fight this a little bit, I understand. Like, I was the queen of fighting this as well. But if you think about it, look how perfect Source made the people you love. Look how perfect Source made the earth. Look how perfect Source made the ocean. Look how perfect Source made it that we are. Look how perfect Source made our bodies. We fucking can breathe in our heartbeats, and like our blood moves itself around, and like our body's just doing all these functions without us even having to think about it, just so we can stay alive and living. Like, look how fucking perfect the system is. That we breathe the air and it works for us. It's not toxic to us, so we're allowed to live. Like, look how perfect the system is. And so why would Source then just fuck up on the way you look? Right? It wouldn't happen. So everything about you is perfect to get you to a certain lesson or a certain place. You know, we choose our parents to go through a certain trauma so then we can understand what that trauma feels like, so we can overcome it, so we can feel better, and then we can help other people do the same, and then or we can create something cool with our life because of it. Everything, or get a soul lesson because of it. Everything is so perfectly designed. I can't even begin to explain to you. Source is like fucking incredible. And how Source creates. I'm like, biggest fan, number one fan here of Source. Okay. So Source fact knowledge is, if the higher self picked it, the more the human gets from the ego self, the more we will see the beauty of it. So you might be wondering the purpose of your physical life. You may be wondering, if the higher self knows it all, then what are we doing here in these physical bodies? Why does the higher self need to grow if it already knows it all? Well, the higher self knows a lot, but it's kind of like reading a book. You can logically learn something, but until you're actually fully implementing it and embodying it, you don't fully have or know, and you're not fully being that knowledge. That's kind of like the higher self. It has all the information, but until the human self is fully embodying it and immersed in it and living their life by it, you will keep getting similar reoccurring soul lessons. Until it has physical memories and experiences with that knowledge, it essentially doesn't have it, doesn't have the knowledge. So your job in physical form is to prove that the knowledge your higher selves have attained and knows what works and what doesn't work. It's your job to essentially live that and embody that in life. And that's the purpose of essentially going through each lifetime. It's to make the knowledge your higher self has permanent on a physical level. Essentially, so that you will expand your consciousness and make your way up to new levels to get back to Source. We're at a place in the world where to be triggered by things because our defenses are essentially gone is really easy. Our confidence and knowing of ourselves is the literal lowest it's ever been, ever. And one piece of information that causes someone to think or conflicts with their beliefs causes them to literally freak out. I mean, we've seen it. Like, if you say you like apples, people are like, what about oranges? What don't you like oranges? And people just freak out. And it's like, I never said that. I'm just saying I like apples. You know what I mean? It's people, we're in an age where people have been so disconnected on purpose, unfortunately, from the dark force world, which different episode for a different day, or if you want to get inside the dark forces course, but on a dark force level where people have been so disconnected from who they are and being in full love with themselves. So what I don't want is for anyone to get triggered by this or what I'm about to say or what I'm saying, and for you to not listen to the rest of this episode because before you get to experience, the point of this episode. So we're essentially all here to impact and bring up the frequency of this planet. And our higher selves choose, again, every single thing about us, where we were born, where we grew up, our parents, our ears, our eyelashes, our eyebrows, our belly button, how it looks, all of it. And whether this is your first lifetime or your 700th lifetime here on Earth, one of the most important soul lessons the higher self chooses to learn and will spend hundreds of lifetimes trying to master is to fully love who you are no matter what. So much so that it doesn't matter what anyone else says or what anyone else has to share or think about you. None of that's relevant, and only how you see yourself is what matters. That's one of the non-negotiables from going from like a soul with less consciousness points to an older soul, essentially, with more consciousness points. It's the first part of our conscious growth expansion. So this is a source fact of what we're supposed to learn, and which means this then supports the goal, which is to not change the body that you have until you absolutely love it. What is the goal is to fall in love with every single cell in a way that you know that it is perfect. And you know that it's perfect because if source has input in it and it was picked by your higher self, they're fucking perfect. They know what they're doing. The soul lesson that everyone has to go through is to have this inner love for ourselves, literally no matter what. And what's wild, and I have been on this side of things, is so fucking many of us dislike how we look in some way, shape, or form. And there have been so many, even just like on TikTok, there's been like, how the person with the mic goes on the street and they're asking people questions. I one time saw one of those, and the guy with the mic was asking, what would you change about your body? What would you change about how you physically look, to like a bunch of different people? Everyone had at least one thing to say. So it's not our fault, but we have not been necessarily put in a system where we are trained, or it is easy to see the perfection in ourselves. It's not something we learn in school. We actually learn in school that we need to, learn a certain way, sit down, take tests a certain way, be a certain way, like certain things, when maybe we don't, right? And then it then translates and domino effects into every single area of our life. So we are not set up to see the perfection in ourselves. So it's not our fault, but once again, if you desire to access your fullest potential physically, if you desire to be able to create things physically on yourself like Source does, if you desire to fucking have people treat you better in life, get better opportunities in life, the full shebang, then this is something that is going to be necessary and essential for you to do. Because once again, if you haven't already, go listen to the 2 episodes before this. The first one's on self-love. The second one's on self-image. Those 2, I would say, are prerequisites to this episode. If you haven't listened to those, listen to those for sure, because especially the self-love one, I talk all about why self-love is actually why you're having every single obstacle ever in any area of life, and why self-love is the key to getting literally anything you want. And we dive into that in there. But like we talked about in there, you feeling like you're perfect means that that's going to be the script in your creator field. You are then going to be handing out that script to other people, and other people will act out that script back to you of you are perfect. It's going to mean you're perfect to put a baby inside of. It's going to mean you're perfect to make my wife or my husband. It's going to mean you're perfect to get promoted at the job. It's going to mean you're perfect to, everyone thinks you're perfect in buying what you're selling. If you have your own brand, it's going to mean you're a perfect person to pay. It's going to translate to people literally basically feeling like you're perfect if you feel like you are perfect. And that is a great fucking energy and belief system to walk around embodying. It's going to do you very, very well in life. So what's so crazy is, all these people, and myself included, if you would have asked me even a fucking year and a half ago, would think plastic surgery is the way to go to, change something. And again, if you've had plastic surgery, this is not me saying anything about anything other than just explaining a source perspective. And we can change things once again, from a balanced place once we fall in complete love with it, and we will get there. So I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do, or shaming you for anything you have done at all, ever, because if I didn't have access to this information, I would have for sure 1,000,000% done the same thing. So if we talk about how perfect source is, again, how could most of the population want to change themselves? If source is perfect and source made everyone, how the fuck would source make us not perfect? Again, think about the perfection of everything else we see, how perfect it is. So if we struggle with our physical body, the first level of achieving loving yourself unconditionally, no matter what, is what you have to do before you would be able to get to the next levels of actually changing something. Okay, so I heard this story from my teacher, who I learned so much about training my intuition from, and energetics and cell manipulation, all of that. His name's Al. He talked about the story of this plastic surgeon, and I don't remember the plastic surgeon's name. I really wish I did, but I don't feel like stopping this episode to go to find his name. But essentially, the plastic surgeon actually understood the universal law that you can never get anything from the outside in. It all has to be created from the inside out. Okay. If you try and create things externally to make yourself feel better, it never works. We've all done it. So think about the car you got, or the house you got, or the boyfriend or girlfriend you got, or the new outfit you got, or anything that you got on the outside, and you thought it would make you feel better. So you thought it would make you feel better for you thought it'd make you feel better permanently. But what happens is it really only makes you feel better for a day, 2 days, 3 days, depending on what it is. If it's a new car, maybe it makes you feel better for a few weeks. If it's a new outfit, maybe the first time you wear it, then you're over it the next time, right? This is because you are trying to achieve a feeling from the outside, and you're trying to externally go and get something, buy something, do something, change something, wear something that you think is going to make you feel better. Like I said, I thought getting a nose job was going to make me feel more feminine. And it might have for 2 weeks, but then the neural pathways and the actions that I take and the thoughts that I have were going to come back with a vengeance, and even worse, because then I would be like, oh my God, I got this nose job. I spent X amount on this nose job, and I still don't feel feminine. And now what the fuck am I supposed to do? What else do I have to go change, right? So we think it's doing something externally. It's going to achieve a feeling on the inside. It's not. And so think about, you've done this. Think about any time you thought something externally was going to make you feel better. And we've all done it. I've done it many, many times. And how long did it make you feel better for? Just take a second. Maybe a few months even, but it's not sustainable. The creepy, crawly feelings keep coming back. And the way your brain's wired, the new shiny things don't change the neural pathways in your brain. They don't change the way your brain's wired. So yes, you can get this thing, but the problem is you're dependent on this thing and you're relying on it to feel better. And so then if you don't have that thing, then you feel like trash. How many times have you gotten so excited about getting something because you made it mean that you're more valuable, and then that thing goes away? That's now playing with the law of opposing forces. Because you really, really wanted this thing, and you really, really want this thing because you think it's going to mean something about you. You think it's going to make you feel better. That's why we really want something. We don't want something for anything other than the reason of we think it's going to make us feel better. We think it's going to make us look a certain way, right? We think it's going to cultivate a certain feeling inside of us is the only reason why we ever want anything. But if we realize this is an inside-out world, not an outside-in world, if we realize that these outside things will never actually change our inside, they don't change our neural pathways, they don't change our subconscious, they don't change what we believe to be true, they don't change our energy. It just kind of puts a temporary Band-Aid on these wounds, and then it falls off, and then we need to go back and get more and more and more and do more and more and more. It's kind of like the second you start getting filler, it's like, fuck, where else can I put filler? It's like, oh, well, that's now not good enough. I got to put it here. That's not now good enough. I got to put it here. And it just is a vicious cycle that we can get ourselves in. And so just like how I thought getting a nose job would make me feel more feminine. And then I, realized, thank God I saved my time with that and didn't do it. But we then realized that's actually, it won't make you feel better. It's actually just going to make you feel worse long term. This plastic surgeon, who I can't remember the name of, understood this universal law, actually, that you can't attain anything from the outside in. So because he understood this law, he actually took people through this massive long psychology test whenever they would come to him and want to change something, which is so fucking cool and unheard of. So feeling good about yourself will never, again, come from a career and the highest amounts of wealth and perfect families and perfect situations and perfect anything, whatever you can come up with. So if you felt like there was that hole, usually between the ages of 4 to 8 or 9 years old, if you feel like there was that hole inside of you and you decided to build a life that you were going to prove how you felt about yourself wrong, you're only going to find out that by the age of even 80 years old that none of it worked. None of it was fulfilling because you can't get things from the outside in. And it's because that this law that nothing in the universe can be done from the outside in. It's just a source truth. So this plastic surgeon would put people through these psychology tests, and he would start to screen people for this. And this is so fucking cool. I'm so impressed by whoever this guy was. I wish I could remember his name right now. He actually started coming up and giving these exercises with people and was changing lives, even though he could have just physically changed their bodies. He would help these people get back to that balance in their life where people were just happy about their life and the way they looked. So before he would even then perform surgery on them. So this then makes me think of kind of the whole point of this, which is whenever you want to change something on the outside in order to feel better, it's a scientific, spiritual, energetic law that you just will not benefit from it until you shift the inside. Now, if you've already done something to alter the outside, it is okay. We are not, again, I would have too if I didn't find this information when I did, and we're not built to know any better. And you can shift your perspective now. If you you did something, you find yourself wanting to do more, you can shift your perspective of how you're perfect. And you're going to be all good. You know what I mean? This is a journey for all of us. And I am by no means saying that every day, 24/7, all times, all days, all hours, all seconds of the day, that my physical self-image is at 100% all the time. It's not. If it was, I think I'd probably be living in a different realm because I would have already gotten mastery over that, right? So it is okay. So let's say you want to fill your lips. Now, to fill your lips, depending on, a whole array of things, there could be this hole inside of your creator field, inside of your emotional body, inside of your heart, essentially, of feeling like you are not loved unless you look a certain way, or there could be there's always something to the thing that you want to fill. So lips are actually the ability to have people feel understood by people with what you're saying. So if you have an urge to fill your lips, having the urge to change anything is always related to something different. Okay. So lips are related to having people, one, take you seriously with what you're saying, and then two, feel like they're intrigued by what you're saying. So if you have the urge to fill your lips, it's probably coming from a hole somewhere in your creator field in your life. That might have happened in childhood, that you felt like people didn't take what you were saying seriously, or you felt like people weren't in awe of what you were saying, or you had good things to say, but no one cared to listen. And that could be the reason why then you decide that those aren't perfect and you want to go fill them. And that's the very, very subconscious reason. And again, I know you probably want to fight this, and I also wanted to fight this so bad. I used to just be like, no, if I want to just fill my lips, God created lip filler, let me just go fill my lips, right? And did Source create lip filler, or was it a person with maybe not so great intent that we cover in the Dark Forces course? I don't know. You choose that. You decide. I have a certain knowing of what that may be. I'll let you decide that one for yourself. So now what would have happened is someone would get this lip filler and then they would find out that they actually feel worse. They would find out their lips were not the problem. It was just so many other emotional imbalances that if you're not addressing, again, if you feel like the things that you have to say, like people don't find them interesting or whatever, imagine you have a business and that feeling in a business will not create the business that you want. If you want to create the business that you want, you've got to feel like the things you have to fucking say are the best things on God's green earth, right? So you can see how this starts to create problems when we're not finding and shifting the root cause and seeing the perfection in everything. It becomes worse and worse and worse. And it's just a cycle that goes on and on. Until you shift the original imbalance. And this is the thing that people don't realize in the world right now is anytime you take an external action to fix something that is an internal imbalance, it's only going to, because of the law of focus, it's only going to compound and make that problem worse. It's just a scientific, spiritual, energetic law that has been created for this universe that we're in. So this is, again, straight from source, and is something that a lot of us are going through on the planet right now because we've graduated these younger levels of inner pieces missing in our bodies. And now we're experiencing it on a even higher level, right? And so the more that you're unsatisfied with your body, the more you've actually already graduated from other levels of being unsatisfied with your body, maybe lower levels. So it's actually the opposite of what we might think. If you haven't really struggled with your body that much, then you haven't lived a lot of lifetimes where you have learned those soul lessons. If you are drastically struggling with your body and face image, physical self-image right now, that means that you have overcome level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6 levels of the game of loving your body in different lives. And now in this life, it's even harder because you're at like the hardest level of the game. And once you get through that level, you then essentially can graduate from all the levels, and then you never really have to deal with it again as a soul lesson. Like I said, I have lived many, 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 many lives of having this be so prominent in my system. And again, it doesn't matter what you look like. I have worked with a literal Victoria's Secret model, and literally this girl, stunning. And, the way she looked, had insane dysmorphia, wanted to change everything about herself, was, having all these things. I won't say anything to out her, but was having all these things go on in her life that were a reflection of her not seeing her value, of her not seeing how she was perfect. So it doesn't matter whether you are fitting the magazine's version of beauty or not. It is a perception, and beautiful is not a physical thing. It is an energy. It is a state of mind. It is a belief system. Because if you lived on a fucking island and you were never shown a magazine or a TV show or a movie or any piece of anything a day in your fucking life, and it was just you and 100 other people on the island, there would be no beauty standard. Everyone would be beautiful because they just looked uniquely beautiful. Do you get that? The only reason there's a beauty standard of like what is a quote unquote beautiful is literally because of certain magazines or certain things that the dark force world runs. And so it's not real. It's not the truth. If you were on an island and you were never shown a piece of media ever, you wouldn't know the human decision of what's beautiful and what's not. You would literally see yourself and everyone else on the island as beautiful because you can see their unique perfection in all of them. So this is something that, again, it is a feeling, it is a perception, it is a seeing the perfection in yourself. It's not a how you look, and how you look doesn't solve this. which leads me to, okay, so I decided that I wanted bigger boobs, okay? I decided I wanted bigger boobs, and this was a few years ago. And at the time, I knew that I already had the knowing that you've got to love something till you can change it. And I already knew I didn't actually want a literal boob job because I knew the physical consequences of that, just even on the physical level of how toxic it can be for your body to have a unidentified object in your body, what your body thinks is an unidentified object. So I already knew that. So I knew I didn't want to actually get a boob job. And I also knew that I had to fully see the perfection in my body, in myself, before I changed it. And I also then knew that I had to create certain feelings to then be able to create the energetic boob job. Okay. So we're going to dive deeper into like the source science and the actual science of changing the body in a different episode. So stay with me on that. But because of that, and because I then got myself to actually create bigger boobs for myself, which is still so wild to me to this day, I had then other people asking me literally if I got a boob job. And I was like, no, like I manifested them. I was like, no, I did this myself. And people were like, okay, you're either lying or you fucking cracked some kind of code. And so then I had my clients at the time be like, wait, can you give me an energetic boob job? And this is where people would get annoyed with me. And like in a funny way, it like made people so annoyed is I was like, yes, you can I can give you the tools and things to give yourself one. However, we can't change anything about you until you fully 100% love everything about yourself first and see how you're perfect. Okay. And I would not do anything to give them the ingredients of the energetic boob job or help them do what they need to do to get the energetic boob job or alter anything in their body, for that example, until they saw the perfection in how they were, how they looked right now. And again, we're going to dive into the steps on how to do that inside the Glow Foundation Workshop, 2 hours. We'll get the foundational steps in there. Then we'll go to the advanced steps in the Glow Formula 12-week program. We'll dive into the steps for that in there, the exact steps. But because we're already 58 minutes into this podcast, I want to get through the rest of this podcast. Before I even gave them the tools to give themselves the energetic boob job, I had to give them the steps to shift their perception, to see their perfection to the point where they literally didn't want it to change. And then also I had to get them to a place of asking, okay, why do I want the energetic boob job? Why do I want the boob job? What do I think this boob job is going to make me feel more of? It's going to make me feel more sexy, more hot, more this, more that, more nurturing, whatever it is. What is the outcome I think I'm going to get from changing something on the external? What do I think I'm going to feel from changing something on the external? And then I would teach them then how to cultivate that feeling without the external thing changing. When you cultivate that feeling without the external thing changing, what happens? What happens with manifestation, just in general? With money, let's say. I got myself feeling abundant with $0 to my name, literally zero. Some people say zero. No, I had $0 in all accounts and digging for quarters in my car to put gas in my car. And I got myself feeling abundant. I wasn't waiting for some external thing to change. I got myself feeling abundant. Then the external thing changed. So what do you think happens when you start feeling the things that you think changing the thing on your body is going to make you feel? What do you think happens? Your body actually then starts to physically change. So whenever I say give myself an energetic boob job, I think people think I'm like doing this like energy work and it's like a once and done thing. No. It comes down to emotional ingredients. Just like to bake a cake, you need ingredients to bake the cake properly, to make it the best cake ever. If you want to create boobs on yourself a certain way, then you need certain ingredients, emotional ingredients, to emotionally root to emotionally feel, believe to be true, be, act, to connect to, and do. to then actually have these things shift and change and happen. So that is the essentially long story short of how you can change and alter the body. And again, different episode of like the science behind that, the whole thing, not for this episode. But again, I get people to feel and cultivate the feelings of what they think that would bring them before they get it. One, it helps them start to create that thing, that physical change of their body. But two, they feel like they don't need it anymore and they don't rely on the physical change of their body to feel that way. It just then becomes a byproduct of them feeling that way, just like money is a byproduct of you feeling abundant. So, complete love and perfection, seeing complete love and perfection is seeing all of the positives and negatives all at once. And all I would do for myself and anyone who wanted to change their body is teach them essentially how to do this for themselves. And what's really cool is almost all people who then shift that, they then no longer want to go through with like the surgery that they want or the thing that they want, right? And they would much rather do it the energetic, spiritual way. They would much rather get the boob job through the energetic, spiritual way than go actually get surgery to get the boob job. So here, what I do and what I have everyone else do is make sure that you're 100% have it on the inside before you get it on the outside. Okay? So it's not something then anymore that destroys your life. So I go through this process with myself and every single person. And most people then they don't want to go through with the lip filler. I have worked, funny enough, with so many clients who after going through Glow Formula last year, after just working with me, they're going and they're dissolving their lip filler. They're dissolving the filler in their face. Like they're no longer getting Botox. And I would name a few, but I don't know if they like want to be shouted out or not. So I'll let them come forward and name themselves if they listen to this episode. But they have literally stopped getting Botox and they look better than ever, in my opinion. And because they're seeing their perfection more, because they're seeing their perfection more, everyone gets to see their perfection more. And it's just really cool how this stuff works. Again, nothing's good or bad. And I'm not saying that, I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do. I'm telling you the source perspective and how to achieve all of these things without having to go, put things that maybe aren't the best for your body in your body and, let alone go pay for it all too. So now, unfortunately, with the planet right now, this information isn't probably for everyone. But there are a lot of people who are going to go the long way with this. They'll make major changes in their physical bodies, and then they're going to find out within this lifetime, maybe, 20, 30 years down the road, that it didn't fix anything. And if anything, it made their lives 10 times worse. But the perfection in that is this will then become soul knowledge for them. And that soul will never have to go through that again. So we've all been through this some way, shape, or form in some life, somehow, somewhere. So if you see other people doing this, see the perfection in that, because that becomes a soul lesson for them, soul knowledge, and they'll never have to do it again. So this is not about then walking through life going, oh, I'm so much better than people because I do energetic Botox and they don't, and they get real Botox or whatever it is. It is just, there's perfection in people also going the route of plastic surgery and of altering their body that way because of their own soul knowledge that they need to learn. And then their soul will never have to do that again. So it's non-negotiable that we all discover this somehow. So just because you've decided to go the source route versus the plastic surgery quicker way route doesn't mean that the people going the plastic surgery quicker way route are necessarily wrong. It is soul knowledge they have to gain and learn. And humanity as a whole have been doing this in the wrong way, right? And now that we're at the height of all of these lessons, the highest extremes that we could ever have, we have the highest consequences that we could ever have in learning these lessons right now too. And what I can tell every single one of you out there is every single person on this planet that before we go and change anything in our physical lives, we need to do the source work. We need to give ourselves 100% the feeling that we are missing so that we can change or shift anything from perfection versus from lack. Anything, any feeling we feel like we're missing, it is going to directly correlate into us wanting to change something. So me wanting to change my boobs at first came from the feeling of there's a few different there's like about 12 different ingredients in giving yourself emotional ingredients and giving yourself an energetic boob job. One of those ingredients is feeling like you can provide for what is the word I want to use? Feeling like you can provide sustenance to other people, provide good information, provide value, right? And think about like sustenance, like women, boobs, they feed children, right? That milk comes out of them, you feed children, so it makes sense. And so I had this feeling before I was doing this work, but I didn't start the business yet. So I was like doing this work really just fully on myself. And I had this feeling of like, I just really feel like I want to provide for people. Like, I just feel like I want to give and bring value into the world. And that was a feeling that I didn't feel connected to, that I had the potential of. And so it resulted in me then wanting bigger boobs. That's what happens. So then you break down like, okay, what would these things actually make you feel like? What is the root cause of you wanting these things? You start to feel it on your own. You start to see the perfection and everything. And then what happens is when you get all those ingredients to the change that you want to make, all those emotional ingredients, you no longer need that thing to feel a certain way because you no longer need it. You take it off the pedestal. You don't make it mean anything. You end up then creating it by using your emotional ingredients. And we dive deep into that inside the Glow Formula program. And we get the foundations of that inside of the Glow Foundation 2-hour workshop. So again, we dive deeper into that in there. So to recap, the thing we want to change in order to feel better with, we need to find it on the inside first. And you might be saying that's impossible. I promise you it's not. It's a longer process than going to get a quick fix, but it is not impossible. And you will thank yourself for going this route and permanently fixing the problem versus temporarily going a quicker route and temporarily fixing the problem. It's our obligation to feel whole and perfect first. And then when you get to this place where you measure 100% whole, and you can intuitively measure things, so you might hear me measure things intuitively. When you are measuring 100% whole and you feel 100% perfect, and when you get to that place, if you decide you're still choosing for whatever reason to shift, then you can, okay? It will then truly make you happy because you've satisfied the law of the universe of shifting the internal first. So what I'm telling you today is not what you should or shouldn't do, okay? It is that you, according to source, need to be balanced in a loving place about the thing that you want to change and the deeper reasons why you want to change first. And then when you reach that place, change whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Seriously, like it's a fun time. Like you can manipulate the body. You can do so many things. And I am a huge, huge, huge fan of that. Like I think it is so fun and cool to create from a place of love and balance and create like source does. Now, reminder, just because let's say someone has already really good boobs and they didn't really do anything to get those, it doesn't necessarily mean they have the right emotional ingredients to get those. It means their soul chose to be born with those for certain reasons, certain lessons that they needed, right? Now, if you want bigger boobs or smaller boobs, you want your boobs to be different, you can shift that with the same process we already talked about, seeing how it's perfect, getting the emotional ingredients, and then shifting from there. So remember that someone who has like the naturally whatever that you want, like the lip size that you want or the nose that you want, and they didn't do anything to get it, it doesn't always mean that they naturally just have those ingredients, emotional ingredients of what you need to create that. Their soul might have just chosen to physically look like that for other reasons. But when you create from a place of love and balance and your perception being perfect, you can create like source, and you can create anything different on your body that you desire from a perfect perception of seeing how you're already perfect. Now, I know for some people out there, this is a very sensitive subject, and I'm not saying anything about the choices that you're making. I'm going to make this very, very clear today. What I'm saying is so important to be whole first is what I am saying. And There is no exception to that law, and anything that's a missing piece can always be fixed from the inside out. Can always be fixed from the inside out. And if any of, well, first, before I even say that, we are perfect. I want you to remember this. We are absolutely perfect. Our bodies are perfect. And the goal of our soul is to see the perfection in the quote unlovable pieces of ourself. And from there, we can make changes that will be sustainable and last. Now, I know this may sound maybe a little bit like out there, but when you have a good intuition, when you know how to use your intuition to communicate with source, you can really find out some cool shit. And we can really create up in here like source does when we have the right source tools. And if anything that I've said today feels limiting, it means I explained it wrong, okay? None of this is meant to be limiting. This is meant to be insanely empowering. And so if you feel limited in any way, like that means I explained it wrong, please reach out. So let me know what you're confused on and we can get you unconfused on that. And I am so excited for you to hear this episode. Again, I will put the wait list for the Glow Foundation 2-hour workshop in the show notes. And again, that is the prereq to Glow Formula 12+ week program. Whether or not you want to take Glow Formula or not, you might as well get inside the Glow Foundation. It's a 2-hour workshop for a really, really, really low price. And please let me know how you like this episode. And it would actually mean, I never ask this, but it would mean the world to me if you gave this podcast a 5-star review, if you like it, if you feel called to, that would be amazing so that more people can get access to this information. Okay, everyone, I will see you in the next episode where we are going to dive into more fun things on these kinds of similar topics. Okay, bye.